My name is Zach Moldoff. The reason why I decided to run is because I've been serving on the county's Transportation Mobility Advisory Commission for the last year and a half. And I've been running my nonprofit here, working with Orange County government for the last 4 years, doing youth development and placemaking work. And I've heard a lot of times, hey, you have great ideas, but they're not going to go any further unless you decide to become an elected official. And I always said that I would rather just focus on the work that I'm doing and leave that to the elected officials until I realize that my work truly is not going to go any further, and our community might not be helped in the ways that I'm able to help unless I run. So I decided to step up and take on that responsibility because I know that we live in a community where there's a bunch of people like me who are out there doing the work, who are not getting the support to really make the impact that they could. And I saw the possibility, so I stepped up to make it real.
How would you describe your campaign platform, and what are the top 3 issues you believe District 7 residents are most concerned about right now?
To summarize my campaign, I'm running to fix transportation, fight for education, and take our local economy back from big tech. We really live in a time where the majority of our local economy is being used to serve Silicon Valley tech corporations that have found all kinds of ways to make money off of us and what we do day to day. And there's no longer enough of our local economy left to take care of our needs, take care of our businesses, take care of our residents, pay for infrastructure. And if we don't start doing things about it, it's only going to get worse. So my whole thing is that the county needs to create its own rideshare app, because we all know that the issue for transportation has been funding. We don't have funding. We can't get funding. The way to get funding is for us to make our own rideshare app and take that money instead of Uber and Lyft taking it and removing it from our community. We keep it here. We fund links in an adequate way to not only run BRT, but to also run a fleet of vehicles of different sizes, something similar to what they have at Scout. Then we're able to use AI to respond to demand and capacity in a smart way. And we're able to generate routes on demand for where people are and where they need to go. And from there, the smallest vehicles that are used by the agency can be owned by citizens in economically disenfranchised areas, leased to the agency, and start to generate passive revenue, so that in communities like Pine Hills, Rosemont, or Orlo Vista, where you haven't seen earlier investment from corporations like Motorola carry over to become a heritage of business taking place in these communities, we've got situations like Frito-Lay's came in and closed down, and there has not been a preponderance of economic value in communities. We're able to bring that type of passive revenue generation in, and that's what starts to make a really big difference, is not just when people in a community can go out and work and be paid for the work that they do, but when their resources can be valuable to the rest of the community and they can get paid for it. So, I'm really working not just to fix the system so that they work for our local businesses and local residents, but really rebalance those systems in a way that matches the way that we live and do business as Orange County residents, as Floridians.
Yeah, that's amazing. You mentioned taking taking stuff back from the big Silicon Valley tech industry, but then you mentioned AI. I'm interested on your views on the AI data centers popping up and possibly taking jobs away from other people, and
Yeah. I don't want to be alarmist, right? AI definitely has some great applications. Like, for instance, if you ever notice that at a lot of lights where the county controls the roads, you've got a camera that's looking down on the intersection in all directions. And what those cameras are doing is sending a video feed back to a central computer, where an AI, and we've been using this for more than a decade.
Yeah.
AI is counting how many cars are lined up at the light and timing how long to keep that light green to allow for all the cars. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's also making these intense calculations, because the entire network of traffic lights in Orange County is a quantified network of time. If you keep one light green longer, another light needs to stay green shorter. For a human being to make those kinds of calculations, it is beyond us. We cannot make those kinds of calculations in real time the way that drivers need them. AI is great at that. But the reality is, AI like that doesn't require some vast data center that then totally hamstrings our local utilities and starts to create a negative impact in our community. I think the important thing when it comes to AI is recognizing how do we strike a balance? How do we say, where is it useful and where is it beneficial and where is it not? Because
Yeah.
the more each day that we continue and we have all this real wasteful use of AI, that's when we're seeing a greater need for bigger data centers. When our use of AI is going to be limited to just where it's valuable, we're not going to see that kind of negative impact. And one caveat that I want to add is that we've been led to believe that we need AI a lot more than we actually do, especially as consumers. And this is really the tech industry's last hope for maintaining control over us as consumers. Because most of us do not need AI. We do not need AI in our daily lives to ask AI a million questions and have AI make everything that we do better. What we need AI for is the traffic lights, right? And when we're led to believe that we need to consume all these resources, it's leading to bad outcomes for our environment. And I would say for individuals who are feeling like maybe AI is taking over our environment, it's less about the data centers and more about in this brief window for this next year or two, the decisions you make as a consumer are going to determine how AI functions in our society. So if people are just not using it, it won't be an issue.
Yeah. I love your take on that.
Oh,
Because
thanks.
yeah, I like hearing people's different opinions on it because it really is taking over. And I know so many residents and people have been concerned about, possible AI data centers creeping in through Orange County. So I
We
wanted
have
your
that new one in Eatonville, right? And I
yeah,
think this is like, I'm on the fence about it because there's things about it that are clearly not correct. And then there's things about it where it doesn't make sense for us to speculate and make believe that it's worse than it is, right?
mhm,
The fact that that data center was opened in Eatonville, that should be a red flag, first of all, for everyone here to say, why does the only visible data center in Orange County gets planted in Eatonville where everyone can see it from the highway? That's sending a really clear signal,
yeah,
right? Because if nobody wants the data centers, if everybody's against AI, then the place that we locate it, well, it means that somehow that place has less leverage than everybody else. And that's true in Eatonville. Eatonville does have less leverage than Winter Park or Maitland or City of Orlando or Orange County to be able to say, no, we don't want it here,
yeah,
right? They're still trying to build up their infrastructure. They do need those types of large investments. And unfortunately, the owner, Host Dime, um, they've made a lot of noise about creating the data center, but they haven't made themselves accessible at all to residents. And they
mhm,
haven't created very clear information about what the long-term plans are with this data center, right? We all know that like they're going to have staff in there also, like this is their headquarters for their company, and they don't just do data centers, they do all kinds of data processing that involves all sorts of things. But at the same time, it's raising concerns. It is important, and the business owner has not found it important to speak with residents to make sure that information is always available. It's hard to get a hold of. No one that I know has been able to talk to this person.
yeah,
So I think in that regard, that is not how we do things in Orange County. You don't just come and pop up and force people to deal with you, right?
mhm,
Because anyone, like I'm a little bit older, I'm 44, but you think back and you can remember, well, if you just go into some random neighborhood 30 years ago and pop up and force people to deal with you, you might not wake up tomorrow. Because people in Florida don't operate on that level of just being like, okay, come and take what's ours and we'll tolerate it. People get very protective over what they believe is theirs in Florida. And I just don't see how plopping down a giant data center like that is so visible and so obvious. It's painted orange. It screams, look at me. But
yeah,
then there's really not the same level of urgency to say, understand me, right?
mhm,
Like, and I want to understand you because we're collaborating now because this is existing in your community. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to get lost on the
yeah.
ways that it really, because it cuts into so many aspects of what's going on.
Yeah, and it ties into so many different things. But wrapping back into the question so we don't get like so thrown off track. Affordable housing continues to be a major challenge across Orange County. What specific policies would you support to increase housing affordability while, while preserving the character of existing neighborhoods?
Yeah, so these are really important things to me. Um, in one part, because I mean, you already heard me say it a little bit. Like the heritage of Florida is tremendous for me as a person and as a Floridian. Um, and I think it's really important that we give neighborhoods and communities the capacity to self-regulate, so that they could say, like, you know what, we've had enough of buildings being torn down in our neighborhood. Moratorium for 10 years, right? Like that shouldn't be out of the question. If that's what people want in their area and that's what they want to create, I want to make the systems that allow for that better form of governance at the community level, where we do have a higher level of collaboration between communities and government and corporations. But I think there's a lot of steps that the county can be taking in terms of the financial aspect of owning a home. Um, in one part, right, the county can make your money worth more, and in another part, the county can um, reduce costs, like lower prices.
Yeah.
So the way that the county makes your money worth more is when we get rid of exploitative foreign corporations. A lot of them are technology at this point that are coming into our economy and using housing transactions as a way to remove value. So if you were to just measure all the transactions in Orange County and say how much of the money from this transaction stays here and how much gets deposited into a bank account that's not here, we've reached a point where too much is leaving and not enough is staying. So that's the first thing that I'm trying to address is how do I remove these exploitative corporations from our economy and protect it for local businesses and residents so that your money is going to actually be worth more. So that when you need to wake up and spend $10, that $10 gets you what you need, not 9/10 of what you need or 6/10 of what you need. In terms of lowering the overall cost of housing, that's a matter of increasing supply. When we want to increase supply, there's a lot of ways to do that, right? And I think what's important, number one, is that we historically have not empowered small developers to develop small projects that are in the areas where they live. We've mostly relied on housing solutions from tremendous corporations, many of them that are not even based in Florida, that just come in and build maybe 500 or 2,000 homes at a time, or an apartment complex for 4,500 people. And we need to be able to take smaller steps and create smaller solutions. In the past, we were dealing with just boom, 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 just creating giant blocks of housing. Now we need to be able to have the correct way to do the infill. And
Yeah.
that's one way that Orange County has been really innovative. And I don't think we get the credit for it, right? Because with programs like Ready, Set, Orange, where the county has said, hey, we've got all the plans ready, they're pre-approved, you don't have to go through permitting, you want to build an ADU, go. And there's a lot of things that we could be doing like that. There's a lot of ways that we could be looking at our existing structures, because the most sustainable structures for housing, the most sustainable housing that we have is the housing that already exists, right? Or structures that already exist that could become housing. And we don't tend to think about structures like that. There are so many commercial structures out there that just sit vacant. That makes things, that makes our money worth less. That makes our community more expensive, right? So I think the county has to do a better job of hitting a lot of different points at once. One is, like I said, empowering the smaller builders so that we can get more smaller projects going. Two is making sure that when we're working with large builders, we're only working with the right large builders. And three is coming up with more of these solutions like the Community Safety Coalition that allows a neighborhood to determine the character of that neighborhood and to self-regulate. So I think it's housing becomes really complicated because the real answer is that, you know, when you ask a candidate, what's your solution on housing, you're essentially saying, well, where does your solution on jobs and economy merge with, you know, government regulating this local economy, this local industry? Like, how far will you push to say, force this company to sell this house at this price? That's not going to be me. I'm not going to be the one to say, like, I'm going to have a boxing match with developers, because the developers will always win. They've got more money. But I think there are a lot of ways to negotiate and build collaboration and partnership, especially in an exciting time where we're seeing all this turnover and change in global economic, I mean, in revenue streams and supply chains and all of it. So I think in this moment, it's a very long answer, I know, but
Yeah,
if
that's okay.
we really want to change housing, it's about saying, where does the resident fit in the local economy? And what is the resident's relation to the people building the homes? And I
Yeah.
think by looking at that and like kind of thinking about that relationship, it's just about facilitating the better relationship and saying, yeah, there's probably a bunch of people in this community. Or I take that back. I know there are a ton of people in this community that want to be making the right kind of impact. And it's my job as your commissioner to ensure that the county facilitates that in a better way than it has in the past.
Yeah, and it is a big question, like to ask just how can you fix this when there are so many variables. It is really a lot to answer. So thank you
Or
for that.
sorry, and you know what? There is one other thing that I want to point out because I noticed that one of the other candidates criticized the county, saying that if he were elected, he's going to make sure that the county offers down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. And Orange County does do that. We have been doing that. I think one of the most immediate and best ways that we could do better is by simply raising the minimum or the maximum purchase price. Right now, I think it's around $315,000, which, if you look at the price of a home in Orange County, most homes are well above $315,000. So if we were to take the first-time home buyer assistance program and simply raise the price, it would make it a lot easier and a lot more people could qualify. But now we're just back to the issue of, well, there's not enough homes for them to buy, so where do they go? What do they do with that money?
Yeah. District 7 includes diverse communities with different needs and priorities. How would you ensure that residents across the district have a voice in county decision making and development projects?
Staff, advisory board, and collaborations, right? So I've already started building out my staff, looking at who I would be hiring and why. And a big part of that is for me to be able to build on the rapport that I've built across this district, right? And for me to admit and know that as much as I've been out there working in Pine Hills, I haven't been out there working in Orlo Vista, right? As much as I have a deep relationship with one person in Rosemont who I've been helping for years, I don't have a deep connection to Rosemont, right? But that's about me leaning into those connections and bringing those people into my administration to help me. And then with the advisory boards, it's the same thing, right? If whether that means appointing citizens from District 7 to advisory boards to ensure that they get the best outcomes that they want, or whether that means appointing citizens who are not from District 7 to serve District 7 because they're going to deliver what our citizens want. The advisory boards become a very important aspect in how the commissioner creates inways for the citizens, right? For the residents. The advisory board is where those doors open to go from I'm active, I'm on this cause, I'm passionate, I'm concerned, to I am involved in the decision making. I am one of the informed parties when the decisions are made.
Yeah.
And then, sorry, what did I say? The advisory boards. What was the question? I forgot the thing that I said.
Um, and I just lost the question
Oh,
too.
and then
Oh, there we go.
collaboration. Right,
Yes.
collaboration. So one thing that I feel like a lot of people are looking at is like, oh, well, we need to get a black commissioner because this is a Pine Hills district. And it's like, hey, if someone feels that they need to vote for a black commissioner and that's like how they're voting, they should. But the reality is that we need to get a commissioner that's going to be able to speak to and understand the entire district and build collaboration. And that's what I'm about. I look at this and I go, what better opportunity to take people in Maitland or College Park who want to be more involved in Rosemont, Orlo Vista, Eatonville, Fairview Shores, Pine Hills, and cultivate business opportunity within their community, but just have never had the easy enough means to do it, right? Like that's what a commissioner does. A commissioner comes in and doesn't say, oh, I'm Jewish and there's a bunch of Jewish people in Maitland, so now I'm the Jewish commissioner from District 7 and the rest of District 7 is whatever. No, that's not what it's about, right? Like maybe people in Maitland who are Jewish might look at me and go, oh, wow, like I really identify in a way that goes beyond someone else. Or maybe not. maybe a black person would look at me and say, I identify with him in a way that goes beyond someone else. I think this district is really an opportunity for us to get real again in Orange County and to break away from these ideas that have been fed to us from the national level, from Washington, D.C. politicians and organizing groups that are going on about diversity and equality and inclusion and how to do it right. We've been doing it pretty right here in Orange County for a long time because that's the nature of who we are. And that's not that racism has not existed here. We've got a terrible past with explicit incidences of racism. But the way that we live here, the way that we choose to live as citizens is light years ahead of what America is doing. And I view District 7 as an amazing way to prove that, not just to remind ourselves locally, but to prove that to the nation, right? That this is what Orange County is about. This is what Florida is about. You're not going to tell me that it's Republican or it's Democrat. It's both. It's about coming together and saying, even though we're different, we agree.
Yeah.
And I think at the most superficial level, District 7 tells that story because it's like, oh, it's black and it's white. Do we need a black commissioner or a white commissioner? Well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's all about unity and coming together as a community to make the community better.
I totally agree. It's about whoever the community feels is going to serve them and see them and respect them and acknowledge them and work with them and bring them in, right? It's all these ideas that we're fed about how to vote. They really don't matter at the end when you're talking about the person who you're going to see on a regular basis that is there engaged with your community, is not shipped off to represent you somewhere far away.
Yeah. Okay. Moving to the next question. Environmental sustainability has become an increasingly important issue in Central Florida. What actions would you support to address flooding, environmental protection, and long-term resiliency?
Let me tell you, this goes right back to the previous question because I don't have that answer. The citizens of Orlo Vista have that answer, right? Because they're the ones who have experienced what happens when the system fails you and you deal with these circumstances. And they're still going through it. They're still dealing with it. So when I'm elected and I come in and it's my job to help update the county's systems, those are the citizens who are going to be helping the rest of the county understand what it means to walk into this next era of our history and say, how will we safeguard against environmental catastrophes that play out locally? Right? Like we can't stop all the factors that are contributing to this, but we can mitigate almost all of them in terms of how they play out in our community. And again, like for anyone who has spent the time in Orlo Vista and connected with residents, the outcome of that flooding is not just that people's homes and lives were destroyed, it's that those people responded, right? Those people did what people do in Orange County. They said, I'm going to get back up. I'm going to go again. I'm going to figure out how to make this better so it can't happen again, right? And for any of us who have ever been failed by a broken system, who have ever been broken down by a system, though you know that those are the people that understand how to fix it the best.
Yeah. Small businesses are a key part of Orange County's economy. What role do you believe the county should play in supporting local entrepreneurs and helping businesses succeed?
By building public technology infrastructure and safeguarding our local economy for local residents and businesses. This is no denigration to anyone in the county because I don't think anybody in the nation is thinking about this or doing this, but that's where the county has failed residents, is we have not protected our local economy, and technology companies have come in here and taken away so much of it that there's not enough left. You can't afford to pay the rent on a small business space, pay for all your tools, supplies, cost of goods, pay your staff, pay your insurance, and then have money to pay yourself. There's just not enough money to go around because so many people are taking so much money out without leaving enough to circulate here. So the big thing that I'm pushing for, right, if you go back to the county's rideshare app, if we build that and just think, okay, so now today you wake up and all the cars that are out there running on the road, all the vehicles, 43% of all rides every day are rideshare in Orange County. And then add to that Postmates and DoorDash and all these things. The rides, that's just a resource that's out there. And that resource is being controlled by private companies that all want to make money. So they're making noise because they need to have more rides out, and they have more rides than our community needs. But there's still people left without rides. If the county just controlled all the rides and then regulated the marketplace so that, it's fair pricing and it's accessible and it works for everybody, think about the accommodations that we could make for businesses. 2 weeks ago, I was at the Maitland Farmers Market talking to a vendor. He sells mushrooms. Oh, how's your business doing? It's like, man, we're hurting. We're trying to sell to these restaurants. We can't compete because Cisco comes in and they're selling the mushrooms so much cheaper. It's like, oh man, tell me about your costs. What's your costs on the mushrooms versus the cost to deliver the mushrooms? Tell me your cost to grow the mushrooms and then the cost from having the mushrooms, selling them to your customer, and then getting them to your customer.
Yeah.
He said it's about 60-40. 40 is to make the mushrooms, 60 is to deliver them.
Wow.
If the county were, and that's because that individual then has to pay all these other people to just get his mushrooms to the restaurant effectively. And these are just businesses that are in Silicon Valley that are going, hey, people have cars over there. The county owns the roads. We don't have to pay for any of that. We'll just build an app. And we'll have this software that doesn't even work that great. And we'll charge you too much for it.
Yeah.
If the county owned all that, we could say, okay, cool. We're going to set you up with free delivery for your mushrooms for 3 months. Just because it's going to stimulate the economy and it's going to keep more money locally and it's going to help those businesses. And then if it works after that 3 months, here's how much you pay us for the delivery. Because we just got vehicles out on the road all the time. And all we got to do is allocate one for you within this time window that gets to the restaurants within these other time windows. That's as easy as you could imagine. Right? But the county has not regulated that type of stuff. And when you step back and think about it, it's not just transportation, it is everything. It is your groceries, it is your household goods, it is your sports supplies, your equipment for all the hobbies and activities you like, the stuff for your pets. We buy less and less of this stuff locally, and the stuff that we do buy locally does not come from local businesses anymore. So it really, at this point, you think about 120 years ago, no public government was building parks. That wasn't something public government did. 300 years ago, you think government was paving roads? No. But these are all things that have become so normal and so routine for us that we can't imagine them being handled by anyone other than government. And unfortunately, we're at the point where we should have had public technology a long time ago, and we haven't because of collusion between federal legislators and tech companies. It's profitable for them, for both parties, right? To continue to exploit our economy. Yeah. Federal legislators win, private technology companies win. And then the AI data centers is their last big push, right? So it's the more that we're able to push back against moving into this world that depends on AI and push into a world that depends on public technology infrastructure, which is just a way of saying depending on your community instead of depending on some weirdos in space, right? That's, to me, that's the only way forward. The only way forward is for local government to start protecting the local economy for local businesses and residents. Otherwise, we're all going to be sucking AI slop through a tube and just living like we're in the Matrix.
Yeah. If elected, how would you work with other county commissioners, municipal governments, and community organizations to advance your goals for District 7?
In the same way that I have been, right? Whether that is working with the most outspoken Democratic legislators here in our area, Anna Escamani and Senator Carlos Guillermo Smith, and having them sponsor funding requests that I then go up to the Capitol and meet with Republican chairs of the committees that assign funding for transportation and economic development and create collaboration around these projects that are great for our community. That's what I'm about doing more and more of. Right? Whether it's serving on the Transmac and taking the initiative myself to go out and basically become like a detective, just reaching out, emailing, calling, driving to places, getting out of my car, walking around, building collaboration, building coalitions of stakeholders, taking things that people believe they're not supposed to agree on and making them very much agreeable.
Yeah.
That's what I'm about as a commissioner, saying, like, it's my job to work with both Republicans and Democrats and make both of you happy. It's my job to work with huge corporations and tiny local businesses and make both of you happy, right? It's not an easy task, but the way that task gets done is through collaboration. And I'm all about bringing back the idea that collaboration is not compromising your values. We have to get back to the idea that we're not against anyone that's in this equation, right? Even the state legislators, we cannot operate in this idea of like we're fighting them, because that's a losing fight. They have way more power. And there is no good leader here in Orange County that should be leading you into a losing fight. We're dealing with the circumstances of having lost this fight on transportation for decades. So we got to stop trying to fight to get our transportation, and we got to start learning how to negotiate.
Yeah. Well, finally, if you are elected and complete your first term, what accomplishments would you hope residents point to as evidence that your leadership made a positive difference in District 7?
I mean, for sure that they're not feeling the strain of big tech,
Yeah.
that the transportation works, that people feel that even though hundreds of thousands of people have moved to Orange County recently, it hasn't lost its character. It's still the Orange County from 30 years ago, right? Because that's what's been most disappointing for me is I moved away in 2007 to go to bigger cities and learn about what we were lacking here. Why was it when we had such a vibrant arts community in the early 2000s that touring bands would come everywhere to come here to start like to launch their careers to become legitimate, but no one cared about our culture and our community. Like, right? People in New York and LA did not care about the bands that were playing here and what was going on. And that really confused me. And after leaving and having like really figured it out, and I understand it now, but I've come back, and the people who made culture so powerful here have not been involved in the institutionalization of culture in Orange County at all. Right? Like, this is no denigration to the art of theater, but Orange County is not a place where people just do theater. This is a place where people were making outstanding music 25 years ago that was defining things for people far, far away. Right? Like, we've got a very rich history of visual art here, but none of that is captured in what we're doing today. Like, who is moving to Orange County today and knows that Sam Rivers was here? That should be a crime. Right? Like, that Jack Kerouac house is over there in College Park. Who's ever talking about that? Nobody, because we don't know that it's there, because the leaders that we have in arts and culture are not celebrating our arts and culture. We're putting a bunch of health industry professionals on the canvas, the cultural canvas plan, and then wondering why things are not authentic. People don't want to come here. They want to go somewhere else, right? People travel down to Art Basel from all over the world to purchase art once a year. Nobody comes up here.
Yeah.
How would you not, right? We should be having that type of experience here. You traveled from around the world to go and buy art in Florida, and then you didn't go up to Orange County? Why? Because you have no idea that it's worth being in Orange County, because we're over here just, I don't want to say anything more because there's not a way for me to say anything positive, but yeah, fixing arts and culture too.
Yeah, that's very important. Well, thank you so much. This has been very insightful, and if people are interested, they can see more of you at the Hobnob that's coming up, the Pine Hills Community Council.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much.